Hey everybody, welcome on into ClayShareCon 2023. I'm Jessica Putnam-Phillips and we have Paula McCoy joining us again for her third and sadly last time with us here for this year's ClayShareCon because it's the last day. So, I mean, it's the last time anybody's joining us today. But we're really excited for this. This is like saving the best for last, I think, because she's going to show you how to make a beautiful orange flower. So let's go on over to Paula in her studio and say hi to her. Hey, Paula, how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm so glad to. Oh, we are good. We're a little chilly, but we're all right. We're so
Chilly.
happy
It's
to
actually
see
chilly
you.
here. It's only 38 in Fort Worth,
Ooh,
so it
ooh,
is chilly.
yeah.
Anyway, hi everyone. Good morning. So I'm going to switch to my overhead and get started. Okay. All right. So I had posted this little flower to begin with. It's done in three different two oranges and a red. And then last night I was sitting here prepping and I thought, oh my gosh, look at this. So I kind of reversed it, changed up the colors. This is one that I did carve using some of the diamond core tools when it was leather hard. So it was kind of like this when I started. So it had texture in it. And I've got a couple of different ones I'm going to show. Um, Also, after I posted the one last night, I did another one, and this one is so cute. Look at this. It's purple and mauve.
Ooh,
Isn't that pretty?
it's so
So
pretty.
I used on that particular one, I used these three colors. So, and I'll post some pictures in the group. So I antiqued it with the deep cranberry 132, and then I used the 137 and the 131 to do my blending, and you'll see those as we get started. So anyway, that's just another way of doing it. Okay, so you can take this technique and do it on just even a flat surface. I did a Tuesday Night Live on this one a few weeks back, and the same technique is done. This is just a flat tile. This one happens to be earthenware, but it works the same way if you're cone 5, cone 6. This blending is exactly the same. Okay, so just to let you know, you don't have to have the shape. You can do it on a plain surface, just transfer a pattern or freehand, whatever works for you. Some people were asking how I got my little shape. So I did use the GR pottery form. Okay, the little cutie, right, Jess? Isn't that what those are called?
It is the cutie. Yep.
So
the cuties.
I did put that in the middle and pressed it into the foam and did that. And I have these. I don't sell these. These are really, really old. These were by Booth Mold Company, which owned Colors for Earth before I bought it. And this was something that when we cast and slip cast a marble, you could set it in here and it would keep it round. So I tend to use that, okay, as a form. So you might have something that you use, or you could make a little plaster bat. So it's just a way to keep it kind of fluted, and I didn't have to really pay attention to the petals so that they didn't droop down. So I wanted to share
And
that.
you used Debbie's cutter for your flower.
And I did I didn't bring the cutter out here. Yeah. I think
okay.
everybody's buying those out. Like
I know. I love to use them for test tiles, but they make great for flowers. And if you wanted to layer them in each other, you could stack your flowers and make a 3D.
Exactly.
So many great things you can do. Oh, I know.
And just in case I forget at the end, I am really liking the Mako Stoneware SW004 zinc-free clear glaze. 2 coats usually does well with that. That seems to make the pinks and purples and even the greens so they don't brown out, so they don't burn out, those type of things, okay? So, all right, so I've got one started here, and I actually, where did I put that other? Oh, I did it on the back. So everybody says they wanted to see what the back looked like on this one. Well, look what I did this morning. I put a couple of little leaves on there. So anyway, I'll show you the rest of that in a bit. So let's get started on this one. So what I've got is 116 Florida orange, 115 tangerine peel, and 112 candy apple red. So I'm working from light to dark. That's what I tend to do with most everything that I do. I'm also using the Sumi brushes, and the Sumi brushes come in a set, or you can buy them individual. I'm using the small and the medium today for this. The larger the brush that you can use, the softer the look. And that is in any kind of painting, okay? It doesn't matter what you're doing, okay? So I think you can see my palette. Yes. I'm going to start with the, depending on the size of the piece. This is a smaller one. I'm going to use the small sumi. I'm going to start, always wet your brushes, blot out the moisture, and then I'm just fully loading into that straight orange. Now, when you're doing this technique, if you find that you're getting a lot of lines where your colors don't blend very well, you can add up to 50% of the gloss medium, which comes in the ceramic sampler kit, or you can buy it separate. And that will help it move and blend. So the word medium, think of it as an opener, keeps it open longer, allows you to blend. So if you work slower, that may be the way to go. Okay. So I'm just tapping the light color on, just tap, 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 sit it down, mush, mush, mush. That's my famous little thing that I say.
Technical mush.
Technical term. There you go. Yeah. So about halfway back on that petal, turn it around. Do not wash. Pick up the tangerine peel and put that down where you want it. So you always tuck the color in the area that you want it. And then I'm working it back. And the reason you keep the first color on the brush is because when you're pushing it down, it's bleeding from the dark into the light, which is where you're at. And it gives you a nice transition of that color. And then I'm going to leave that in the brush and pick up the candy apple and add it for the shading near the center. And I'm going to walk it back a little bit. You can even walk it up. If you had a flower or something that you had more definition, if it was an open, you can walk it up the edges. But always don't put that color in like this because you're going to have a line of red. You always want to aim. The other key thing is don't rinse. Just wipe on your sponge, go right back into the orange. So you don't waste your product, first of all, because otherwise if you keep washing it, you get too much water in the brush and you're just washing out that product and you're not using it. You're wasting it. So halfway down, pat it in, turn it around. So you could use any color combination. That's what I did on the little mauve and purple one. It just depends on what you like. I tend to gravitate towards blues, so I tried to be different this time. I'm bad about using the cerulean colors. That's one of my favorite. Okay, so you've got a 2-color blend, and by adding the 3rd color, we call this a 3-color blend. And you're just working it back. If you run out, add more on your brush. The sumi brushes are really soft, so you don't see as much of the lines or brush marks, brush prints. You could use a round, like a Kolinsky round, but this is so soft. You get a nice transition in a blend. Wipe, turn it around, and add your orange on the tips. So you could do this on and do different colors on every petal. Make yourself just a color chart, but with different color combinations. That would be I should have done that. I just thought of that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I may have to. I've got a larger one here that I think it's using the 8-inch cutter, so I may have to do that on that one where it's going to show up nicer. Now, see, you've got a little area in the middle, so that means I need to come back further, and I'm just walking it back, and then I'm going back and forth. So when I'm doing it, I'm pretty much applying a 2-coat coverage because I'm constantly going back and forth over it. The other thing is if you run out of the color you're in, so I added more of the tangerine, and then I'm picking up the red. So if your brush is really dry, when you get ready to go to the next color, add some of the first color or the last color that you use back into the brush. Okay? And just see, I'm going multiple times back and forth, back and forth. I want it nice and blended. Wipe. Okay? So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go back and do a 2nd coat the same way. Going right over the top of the original. It's all going to show through. These are the color concentrates that I'm using. They are translucent or transparent underglaze. Not necessarily for opaque coverage. Now, the black and the darker blues are more solid. So you should see, they should have that translucency quality to them. Don't get too heavy. Don't get too thick. So multiple thin coats is always better than one thick, heavy coat. So you see I went right over that red with the tangerine, and then I added the red back in there. So every layer that you add with any product in any color, you're going to have a richer or darker value of it. Okay, so wipe, go back into your orange, and we'll just add a second coat on here. Turn it around. Second coat goes much faster because the bisque, the 04, I'm working on 04 B-Mix, absorbs that first coat. So sometimes you get what I call a line of color look, and then the second or third coat, if you're doing 3, will help eliminate that. So I'm just tap, tap, tap. So my brush is not doing this. It's bouncing constantly on the surface. See the difference? You got rabbit tracks or blend. Okay. So that's one of my famous little sayings. And now I lost track of red. I started that, forgot what I was doing here. And then add that red. So 2 coats should be great if you're applying it like I am. If you're very thin and you can see a lot of white or the bisque showing through, then you may need a 3rd coat. Okay. So that's one way of doing it. I have to let those dry for a minute before I can do anything else. So I want to switch over to this guy here. On this particular one, I used CC 123, and then I went to 116 Florida Orange, and then I still use the Candy Apple Red. So the difference was I was inside with my light color. Then I turned and did my orange halfway down and then my red. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do some of this. I did a little bit different technique on this particular one. And I'm not done with that. We still have to add some shading. Okay. So on this guy here, I'm going to go to the medium semi because it's a larger surface. And I need to get some 20. Actually, on the back of this one, I tried a brighter yellow. So I went to 22 on the inside. I thought, well, might as well see what it looks like, right? Why not? All right, so I'm going to use the 122. And I'm going to start.
So Paula, these colors, they're all full strength. You didn't thin them down?
I did not thin them down. Correct. Sorry, I should have said that. Apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And are you using the gloss medium with this at all? And if you use it, do you go to 5.6 with that?
You can go to 5.6. You just can't use it. On this one, I did the gloss medium, mixed 50-50 with the concentrates, and then I still applied 2 coats of the Mako over it. Okay. So it's a little bit lighter. This I did just the full strength. So see the little bit lighter because you've mixed it. You've thinned it out basically.
Right, thinned it down.
And on the back, it's not. Okay. So on this one, I'm going to start, and I've always wet my brush, blot it out, just like you were shampooing your hair. Wet your hair before you put your shampoo in it. Think of it the same way. This is a natural hairbrush. It is a black squirrel hair, very soft. I'm not knocking the other Sumi brushes out there, but the other ones are a coarser hair. They're more like a pony hair, and so they are a little coarser. This will give you a softer look.
Oh, yeah. The ones I was using the glaze with this morning, I wouldn't want to use for this. I'd want to use yours, definitely.
Yeah. I think if you're doing design work, let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
So even though when I did my edge around here, I got some of the red on the back, that's okay because it's going to be covered up with what I'm doing. Is there any questions, Jess? Anything?
So someone asked if you could go over the colors you're using again in your palette.
Yes, absolutely. So the yellow that I'm using right now is the 122 lemon peel. And then I'm using the Florida Orange 116. And then I'm going to use the Candy Apple Red 112. The only difference on the front was I used 123 for the yellow, a softer yellow. So I thought, well, I'm going to flip it over and do a darker yellow just to have something different. So always keep the last color in your brush as you're working. Overlap those two. See how I'm just constantly going back and forth. Okay, let me come in just a little bit closer so you can see it better. And then I'm going to grab the red without washing the brush and start with that red on the tip. I'm going to turn my brush over because I have color on the other side. Now I'm going to show you a different way. So if you want to blend like we did on the other one just a minute ago, but watch this. Now you can take and you can actually feather down just with the very end of that brush. Tap it in and then feather. So you see these streaks? That's what I've done there. So that's another way of doing it. Just a thought. Again, wipe it out. Now this is a larger brush. I am going to rinse in between because of the fact that it is large and it tends to hold more color. Let me do one more and then I'll show you. Somebody had asked me a while back about dry brushing with underglazes. So I'm going to show you how to dry brush some shadows on this to make the color more intense. Turn it one direction and then go, whoops, and I just set my finger in that wet. I usually go the other way around it, so I don't do that. So tap, 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 pat, pat, pat. See, I'm literally patting it on, grabbing some more because I need to come further down. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my red. So with the Sumi brushes, it makes this really simple to do, I think. Practice, just even on paper, just till you get the feel. So I'm all the way down. The bristles are all the way down. Let them do the work for you. Because if you're up like this, you're going to get little tiny, see that? You get little, what I call rabbit tracks. So you have to press down and blend that into the last color that you used. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I've got a little bit more on my brush and I can sweep it down. I'm going to add some more. My brush was dry. So to pat it on, sweep, 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 sweep. Kind of cool, a different way of looking at it. And that's what I did. I did it over here and I did it on this guy too. That little pink one, okay? I'm gonna rinse that brush. And we're gonna go back over to this guy. And these are a little bit dry. You can see they start to turn a little bit of a chalky look as they dry. Of course, the clay, the B-Mix definitely holds more moisture, and any bisque will do that. Okay, so now I'm going to do what I call a tuck and slide. Let me get my water basin over here so that you can see it, and we're going to go back off. Okay, since it's a small area, I'm going back to the small Sumi brush, okay? I'm going to water load, but then I'm dragging it off the edge to achieve a nice point on the brush. You see these little lines out here, like folds or bends in the petal? That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a tuck and slide. So I water loaded, drag off to a point, and I'm going to tip into the candy apple red, just on the very tip. And wherever I want that, I'm going to kind of aim it because I'm going to come in. So I'm going to, if you do it like this, then you're going to see a line. But if you go this way, it's going to be easier. So I'm going to pat it in place and then slide. I've got enough water in my brush, so I'm going to go over here and do this one. Pat, 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 slide. And then if I want to turn it around, I've still got enough moisture. I can come over here and I can do it again. Now that one had a little bit of a start and stop at the end, so I just cleaned my brush and just went back from the opposite direction. Water load, drag off to a point, tip into that color, tap it in place, and slide. So you can see it creates little folds. Water's your friend. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, if you keep messing in that area, yes, you're going to lift your color. You will, okay? Now, you can also do the same thing near the center. And I don't have two coats on this, but that's okay. So you can come in here and just Sumi shade, I call it, and add more color down at the center. You can do the same thing by tucking and sliding up. Tuck and slide. Those technical terms, right, Jess?
I love
so that gives you some ideas on that. You can also come in, and then move that back out of the way. You can come back in with your liner brush. I like to use our 3600 size 2. Always, again, wet your brush, blot out the moisture. You can take the candy apple red and you can reinforce. So you can come in here and you can add little lines of extra detail in there. You can't see them as much. Well, maybe you can, like Let's see if I can get it tilted. You can see like red lines in there. There's black ones also, but there is red ones behind it. Every layer you add, that's going to intensify what you're seeing. Okay. Now I talked about the dry brushing before I forget that. I'm just going to grab, this is a number 8 Kolinsky square shader, or flat, sometimes it's called. I like shop towels when I do this. Okay. So I always try to keep one here handy. I'm going to take the red, candy apple red. I'm going to load the brush. See how much I have on there? And I'm going to kind of wipe on my towel. I'm going to do it on this one so you can see. And I just kind of feather that in. And you see the added detail that makes. So it's another way, wipe, to reinforce that edge. Load, wipe. So you're wiping off the excess. And it's almost, you could do it with a comb brush or a rake brush and have more lines, but this is kind of stuttery, and it gives you, see those feathery type lines that are out here around that edge? It's looked like I took a liner and actually, did every one of them individually. I didn't. I just put it here and just feathered in. So you're just on the tippy toes of it. Does that make sense? Do you think I need to show it on the side camera, Jess, or does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. It's up to you if you want to show on the side. Your call. You do what you want.
Okay,
there you
so
go.
Let's do that. Okay, so I'm just on the very tip of it, okay? And I'm just feather. So it's only grabbing what's on the end of the brush. Feather. You got to say that to make it work. Haha, right?
That's right.
Okay,
that's like
so hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, so that can be done. Let's do the center. I'm assuming we're doing okay on time. Getting close.
We are. We got 20 minutes. No, you're good.
Okay, so for the center of this, again, start with light, go to dark. So I started with a lighter yellow and added a darker, and you can go into multi, and then you can add the dots. Okay, so put that there. I'm going to use 24, or no, I'm going to use the 23 that I started with on the other one. So this is 123 sunflowers. This is the 2-ounce size bottle. This is the 1 ounce. And they do come in pints also, which would be this size. Massive. Yeah. Unless you're doing a lot. I have had people buy quite a few pints, so they must be doing production wear, I would say. All right. So I'm using the stubby brush. And if you're looking for it on the website, that's just what it's called, stubby, S-T-U-B-B-Y. I'm pouncing that into the brush so that I have like a bad hair day, I call it. It's real open, like if you've left paint in your brush. And then you're going to tap it on or pounce it on. And the reason I do it with this one is because I can get highs and lows, meaning heavier in some area, light in other areas. It's a mongoose hair, so it's a little stiffer than what a Kolinsky hair, but it is still a natural hair brush. And I tend to work with mostly natural hair with my fired product. So you're going to add that guy, and then you can go to a darker yellow. So let's add the 24 yellow ochre. Just don't let me forget to show your daisy pin. I did something on a piece this morning. Oh. Okay. So really pounce this out for that second color. Okay. Because now, see how frayed the end of that is? Can you see how? So you're just tickling, I call it. You're just barely touching the tip of the brush, and constantly watch the flag on the brush. You're constantly turning it when you're up in the air so that you don't get those rabbit tracks, but you can kind of see how you get highs and lows even, but you want some of that first color to show through. So don't cover it all up. You can also come in here, we can add, I've added key lime, the 160. You could add browns. It really depends on what center you're trying to create. On this one, I did 161 for the lighter green, and then I added 162 for the darker, but you can still see the light green showing through. And then I added black very, very, very lightly all over. and then I intensified it around the edge, and then just kind of a little C stroke there in the middle. And I did the same thing here. I did the heavier or the darker yellow more on one side and then in that C. Okay, so I think we've got enough of this one. So if you wanted to go even darker, you could go to the curry. And then naturally, I didn't get that color out. The 125. Again, these are translucent underglazes or transparent. So that's why, and the more coats, I'm going to load with that one, pat out or stipple out. And then if I just want this one, and this one will show up a little better, just around the edge. And I'm constantly changing the direction that I'm turning. And then I can go in here and kind of create that little C shape or a divot type of a look in the middle. Again, you can add key lime if you wanted a little bit of greenish tinge to it. I mean, your imagination is your limitation, okay? Look at your reference photos. I'm going to wipe some of that yellow off and then grab the green, stipple it out, bad hair day. And then maybe I want some of the green on the top or the other side. Okay, just for something a little different. Okay, so this brush was completely dry when I started. When you're done, then you can wash it, okay? I'm going to overlap it into that other color. All right, so let's go to the black. I'm going to use that same liner brush that I was using before. Any questions?
Well, someone just asked, was the black also done with the stubby brush? But I think you're about to do it with the liner.
Yeah, on this particular one, I'd use the liner and my little dotting tool. On this one, I did use the stubby brush because I wanted a completely different center than what I was doing on the original one. So good question, yes. So grab your liner brush, wet it, blot out the moisture. And then I'm going to thin one side of that black and then drag my brush through that to coat all the hairs and to get a nice point. And then we're going to go over here. Got to get some of that out of my way. I like to anchor with my pinky and thick and thin, different lengths. And basically you're reinforcing what's already there. Okay. Then I came in with the little tool I was showing yesterday. This is a small wipeout tool. It's a RD66 on the website. I'm going to load it. It looks like a candy kiss. See that? And I just got black all over me. I want to get that on something. And if you don't know this, there's little tiny, on your palettes, if you have this kind of a palette, there are little nibs on the edge. If you lay your brush between those, it won't roll. Another little tip, which is kind of cool because I've always got one that's going crazy. So then I just came in, there's your sample, and I just dotted. And the more times you continually dot, your dots will get smaller. If you do it the same, load for each one, you're going to get the same size dot. But on this particular, I like to go with different sizes. Okay. Let's go over here and do this one. So I'm connecting basically the center with the petal when I'm doing this, and you can come up into the petal a little bit if you want. And that's how you can finish that off. So I did that on this one. I didn't do the lines, okay, of the black because I have the texture in this one. I've carved that texture. But I can tell you on this one, and you can't see it right now, I'm going to show you a little trick. When you are painting and you're unsure if you've got enough coats, I talked about this on one of the other videos, but the Statler Tri-Plus Fine Liner, you can actually take and you can go over and you say, okay, I've only got one coat. I'll do it up here so you can see it. One coat. Over here, I've got 2 coats. So you can use this, it burns away. It's a good way to keep track. As I was going around, that's exactly what I did, was make my dots. And I don't think you can see them now, but they are there. But if you're unsure, okay, if you've got enough product on there. I just have water and a fine mist. Don't use one of those with the pump. You want to use like a hairspray type mister. Stay 6 inches back and mist that. Look how pretty. This one is antiqued first, and I'll put the photos up with the deep cranberry to start with. So where did I put that chip? I was going to show you what it looked like. Oh, I know where I put them, up here. So I antiqued it like this first. So that fell down in those carved crevices. And then I went into my 3-color blend using the purple on the tip. This was towards the center. This is on the tip, and this is on the tip. So that's a way to check your work to see if you've got. So let's look at this one. Let's spray it 6 inches back. Isn't that pretty? And that gives you pretty much what it's going to look like when it's fired with the glaze on it. Not exactly. It's going to intensify a little bit more, but that is a way to be able to see if you've got the same number of coats all the way around in case you forget to mark it. So I was doing this morning, I was playing with color. Jess, this is your daisy, right? Isn't that one yours?
Oh, is that one mine? Yes, that one is mine.
I think it is. Yeah. So all I did on this one was the same principles. Okay. So if I wanted one of these to have orange on the tips, I use the small sumi brush, and I can come in here, pure color, and I just tap in the orange. And I do like 4 or 5 petals because it's a small area. Okay. And then I turn it around and I grab my red, whatever your 2 colors are, and sit it down, mush, 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 and walk it. And this is just 1 coat on these, okay? And you can kind of see what they look like. Pretty fun.
It's going to be great when it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this was one I messed up, so don't look at all of my, I didn't want to waste it. I wanted to kind of just play with colors, so I thought I'll just do a bunch of colors on it and then show you. But this is just 1 coat, okay, on there. So it looks pretty good just with 1. So as long as you go back and forth with the brush like I'm showing you, you're really putting 2 coats on. So keep that in mind. All right. Any questions?
Someone wants to know if you have a set of brushes available for this technique.
No, they're all single.
They're all singles, but you do have sets of brushes.
I do. I have the sumi set, which if depending on the size work that you're working with. So this is a large, medium, small, and mini size of the sumis. Like I said, they're a really good quality. I designed those 29, 30 years ago because I loved the way China paint looked, and I wanted to be able to do my watercolor background. And that's what I did on this piece, was this watercolory background, just thinned the color down and used that to kind of mush it around in the area. I used it to apply to this piece, just the color concentrates, and then wiped it back a little bit. There's so many things you can do. I mean, here's another one that's wiped back. It also has sumi shading on the flowers. So that's a fun one. Yeah, just all kinds of things that you can do. But I can list everything on my Facebook page and then put the links in there.
Fantastic.
And you guys
that would be perfect.
Yeah.
So everyone, Paula's going to give us everything she used, and we'll put that up because I know some people came in. If you came in late, please go back and rewatch this because there's so much information in this tutorial.
And here's the color wheels for the 2 different products, the color strokes and the color concentrates. The difference is the color strokes are opaque underglazes. The concentrates are translucent underglazes. And here is a few pieces that I've done on stoneware, either Mako, I've done earthenware, and you can apply them over the transfers. I don't remember whose that is, but that's a cool way, after you put your transfer on and fire it to bisque, then you can come back and apply the color because it is translucent. Okay. So that makes a huge difference in what you're applying. If you put the color strokes over your transfers, it's going to block out some of the black or whatever color you're using just a little bit, but you can work with it for sure. All right.
Yeah, I used your Colors for Earth on one of my transfers, my orchard transfers from
Yes.
Sandbow.
Yeah.
And it was just perfect. It's beautiful. And that's
Awesome.
a tutorial on ClayShare. You guys can go watch that. We did that last fall. But
exactly.
yeah, so let me see if anybody's got any last minute questions. Do you have anything else you want to share with us, Paula?
And I think I did the hydrangea one on one of my Tuesday night lives. So I do Tuesday night on my Facebook page and on YouTube. You can find those. You can go back. Anything to do with ClayShare, you can type in ClayShare in the website. So here's what the website looks
Awesome.
like. So up in the search bar at the top on the right-hand side, just type in what you're looking for. Be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you'll get notifications when I go live or put any new videos up.
And could you do this technique on greenware?
You can. It's a little touchy. I wouldn't do it with the gloss medium, but you could do it with the color concentrates. It's just absorbs even more into the wear. So it's a little harder to get the blend, I think would be, as long as you work with it. But if you're looking for fast results, I probably wouldn't do it on greenware.
Yeah.
But,
and so do you apply your clear gloss glaze and then fire it, or do you do a firing, then do the glaze with it? Meaning, do you do 3 firings or 2 firings?
Up to this point, I have went ahead and put the clear over it and be done with it. Now, if it was something, a new technique, and I was unsure, then yeah, I would go back to 04, 05. What are you? I do 04 because I have low fire and earthenware and stoneware, so that I'm doing constantly.
Yeah. So you don't have to fire it again before putting your gloss on. They're not going to smear. They're not like, well, we've seen other products. We've seen like the Amico chalks and the smugs, and they tend to smear. You can't glaze, but Paula's Colors for Earth are not, once they're dry, they're not going to smear unless you go in there and scrub your brush like crazy on top of them.
Correct.
Like just a nice brush on of clear, they're fine.
Yeah, and I think I put a glazing tutorial out there on YouTube a while back, just in the last couple of weeks, showing you, because a lot of times I'll take that fine mister and mist the piece, let it absorb so it's kind of damp, especially if it's set there for a couple of days. And then because if you've got wet on wet, your wet brush going into your damp wear, I find that helps, especially on earthenware, so that you don't smear your colors. So.
Right. All right. Well, Paula, thank you so much for being part of this year's ClayShare Con. It has been such a delight to have you here with us. And if anybody out there has any questions at all, you can always reach out to Paula. Check out her website, Colors for Earth. She has a great blog post on there.
And most of her blog posts will have the instructions and the materials and everything you need for her projects. And again, check out her YouTube channel and follow her on Facebook too, because she does do lives every Tuesday, I believe. Tuesdays at 7:30 Central Time. So you can catch her there and follow her. You will love it. All right, we're going to take a little break now. Then we're going to be back at 12:30 with Melanie from Ceramipix, and she's going to show you how to use overglaze decals. All right, everyone, we'll see you back here in just a few minutes.